Hello, my friends. It is time. I've been posting like little reels all week long as Universal Orlando has been announcing the Halloween Horror Nights original house lineup for this year. Now, generally, and it looks like it's going to be the same for this year, Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando will do 10 houses and like 5 scare zones or different street experiences or whatever. We don't have the scare zones yet. We'll talk about that later. But out of the 10 houses, usually the lineup is 5 original stories that Universal Creative Halloween Horror Nights team invents. So these are characters and stories that they take. They may be from like myths and legends and folklore. Sometimes they're stories that carry over, right? So there's this whole host of original characters, which we will talk about some of them, that are part of these stories. And there are many stories that get carried over. So you'll see a different version of a story that you've seen from years before or carrying on that story. And we are seeing that here. So yeah, 5 original houses and 5 houses that are what people call IPs. That is intellectual property, meaning like movies, video games, TV shows, books, some intellectual property from somewhere out in the ether of pop culture. So we do have a few of those announced for this year, 2 actually. We have Sinners, and if you haven't seen that film, you definitely should. It's a wonderful film. And we have Stranger Things 5. So this is going to be the 5th season, the last installment of Stranger Things houses at this event. I've seen all of them that have come before and very excited to wrap up this chapter, go to the Upside Down one more time. But today we're going to talk about the original houses, the 5 that have been announced this week. Bam, bam, bam. Let's run down what they are, and then I'll tell you some new things that I've learned about them from like interviews and articles that have been put out from Universal Creative Team. Here are the 5 original houses. We have Jack and Oddfellow, Chaos and Control. We have HR Bloodengutz presents a Halloween Fright-Tacular, which is another backstory I'll tell you in a moment. We have Madlands, Caged Cannibals, Cybergoria, and then just today, Invasion Alien Abduction was announced. Now, I'm going to tell you about each of these houses and some fun facts and lore. Just dive in. The first original house announced for this year is Jack and Oddfellow, Chaos and Control. Jack the Clown and Dr. Oddfellow are 2 of those characters that I was mentioning before are part of the pantheon of Halloween Horror Nights Orlando original characters and stories. These started out many, many years ago, and you'll see Jack. He is one of the most prominent and well-known original characters in the Halloween Horror Nights lore. You'll see him return a lot for anniversary years. This is the 35th anniversary of the event at Universal Studios, Florida, in Orlando. So HHN 35, we've got this big anniversary year, 35 years of the event. It was disrupted for 1 year in 2020. We all know why. So now it's 35 years of the event. Jack is back, the most famous, arguably, of the Halloween Horror Nights icons, as they call them. And as is Dr. Oddfellow. We saw him and what is buzzing here? Oh, that's my phone. It's my parents. Hi, parents. Dr. Oddfellow was originally part of Jack the Clown's backstory, and their story is entangled. And then we saw him return in 2023 with his own house, Dr. Oddfellow's Twisted Origins. And we saw more of his story as a sorcerer and a magician working with the Zodiac, and more of his story of how he tried to rein in Jack the Clown, right? So Jack the Clown was too crazy for even Dr. Oddfellow. He was too much out there. He caused too much of a scene. He drew attention with all of his murdering and mayhem. So Dr. Oddfellow was like, get in the box and I'm gonna wrap you up. But of course Jack has escaped and he is back. Now in the struggle between Jack and Dr. Oddfellow, Jack got some of Dr. Oddfellow's blood on him, his immortal blood that he gained through the power of the Zodiac. I mean, there's detailed backstories for all these characters, okay? And he too became immortal. So he was trapped in there, but he was immortal. And then he comes back later. But Dr. Oddfellow comes back again and again, and he's back this year, and this time he faces off with Jack in a house called Jack and Oddfellow, Chaos and Control. So we have the chaos from Jack and the control from Dr. Oddfellow. We were at a panel at MegaCon earlier this year, and we got to see this announcement, and Jack and Oddfellow came out onto the stage, and it was awesome. It was such a moment. The fog, seeing them walk out, it was so great. Very excited for this because I feel like they're bringing out 2 of the core icons of this event whose story is entangled. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm at my news desk here, so that's why I'm doing this. Hopefully you all get the vision that I'm going for here. I usually, do the vlogs out in the streets. out in the theme park streets. And so when I do them here, I like to do something a little different. Set the mood. I even have a candle going. Let's go back to the house announcements. And with all of that being said, the description of this house is witness Jack the Clown's unholy origins. Then enter Dr. Oddfellow's wickedly twisted universe, where two of the most powerful forces in horror face off in a death match of chaos versus control. Each of them is going to be telling us their story, and we're going to get to go through some of those iconic scenes. So that was the first of the original houses that was announced this year, and it's perfect for this year. We've got Jack and Oddfellow battling it out, chaos and control. We're going to learn more of their backstory. I feel like Universal builds on the stories of these characters. They'll see, all right, people love Jack. Let's dive into this story, right? And I feel like they nerd out about it just as much as we do, which is one of the things I love about this event that made me fall in love with it in the first place. Besides the fact that you're like walking through these stories that you know and love, and then new stories that are being created, just the like love and passion. But anyway, we'll get there. Original house number 2, HR Bloodengutz presents a Halloween Fright-Tacular. This is another returning character in the lore and history of Halloween Horror Nights. HR Bloodengutz, a character who started out in a house in 2011. I was just double checking because I thought it was 2011, but yeah, 2011, and his house was called HR Bloodengutz Presents Holidays of Horror. So you went through different holidays there. So this character, we've seen him mentioned. We've seen Easter eggs about him. We've seen him popping up throughout the years since that house. I love the story of this because it reminds me of like an Elvira, an Eddie Munster. So the character, HR Bloodengutz, Larry Kurtzberg, he was a theater actor turned taxidermist turned late night horror host. Now, he took this horror host job at the call of an agent, but that agent was Lady Luck, another Halloween Horror Nights icon who I'm hoping, we have all the houses announced, but we don't have the scare zones. Maybe Lady Luck will return in a scare zone. Maybe Chance. Maybe the storyteller. I'm looking for more of the women icons to appear for this 35th anniversary year. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I would love for that to happen because they're a really cool and part of the story. And yeah, ladies can be crazy horror people too. Anyway, HR Bloodengutz. I'm going to read you an excerpt here from an interview with Raymond Paradia, who is one of the creatives who has brought us many, many of the most beautiful and haunting Halloween Horror Nights houses. This article from Bloody Disgusting, it says, this new house picks up 15 years later from Holiday of Horror's conclusion, where HR Bloodengutz has been incarcerated in the Cary Penitentiary since. Oh, I forgot to mention, he went crazy. So after he was the host of the late night show, the ratings dropped, things were going good, and then things were going bad. And he was getting kicked off the air. He was not happy about that. So he did some killing, he did some murdering, he did some going crazy. He did some going bonkers, as many of these characters do, and he's been in jail in the Cary, Ohio Penitentiary. I'm going to mention Cary again in a second. He's been incarcerated in the Cary Penitentiary since. Now he has finally broken out of prison on Halloween Day. I love when things are on Halloween Day at this event. He has returned to the WKNB television studio to present a Halloween marathon of straight-to-TV Halloween films that were his favorite that he never got to showcase back when he was working 15 years prior. Raymond Paradia says that this is a sequel to an HHN classic and the return of a very beloved character for our fan base. We've played with the idea of creating more story with an HR Bloodengutz lore for a while, and this year's stars aligned and it finally felt like the right opportunity. It's been 15 years since that first haunted house in 2011, so we like the idea of 15 years later, Cary's favorite creature host returns for another bout of fun. Now, speaking of Cary, Ohio. Cary, Ohio is a real town. Some of you may remember on one of Sam and I's mega huge road trips where we did like a long road trip that one time. Sometimes they're short, sometimes they're long. There is a road trip coming this summer, by the way. But we went to the real town of Cary, Ohio. And this town has become a fictional town. It's kind of like the Upside Down. The fictional version of this town in the HHN lore is the upside down version of the real Cary. The real Cary, Ohio is a cute Midwestern town, very charming. We went there and checked out like an old church and some sights and stuff. But the fictional version houses a lot of crazy characters and stories, and that is part of HR Bloodengutz story too here. And the reason Cary, Ohio is used is because Laura Sauls is from that town. So they use an upside down fictional version of her hometown. She is one of the creative minds behind Halloween Horror Nights for a very long time. So I just love that little piece of backstory lore. It's like if I used Miami. Well, Miami actually is crazy. But yeah, that's where I'm from. So if I just made like an upside down version of Miami full of all of these scary horror characters, that's what they've done with Cary, Ohio. Another thing he says here is in the events of that first haunted house, he ended up taking his producer hostage when he found out that his show and himself were getting the axe. He didn't take that news very well. He decided to hold his producer hostage to host that marathon that we saw the first go around, and things ended horribly and ultimately ended with his arrest, right? So that's the story of how he got locked up. He's coming back 15 years later to have a little bit of Halloween fun. He's going to do this Halloween marathon. Not only is it tracking the horror host story progression, it also features the same actor portraying him 15 years later. That's really cool. So we saw a little bit of HRR Bloodengutz in the Welcome to Scary Ohio house. Some of you may remember it. I do have some clips from it. It's before we started using the nicer camera for Halloween Horror Nights opening night. Now, years after that, we use a much nicer camera and we've learned techniques and Sam films them. But this first one, I think I filmed it and I think it was a G7X. So it is what it is, but at least I have it. So we're going to see him trying to piece together his former look as much as he can. But he's escaping straight from prison. So he's going to be a mess, a hot mess, they're saying here. And there's a fun little twist to how he looks this go around. He's older because we were able to work with the original actor who played Bloodengutz in 2011 to reprise his role. I think that's so cool. I love that attention to detail and that dedication. So we're getting an authentic older version of the character in this new house. I love that. The house is going to feature one demented Halloween marathon. What I'll say about that without giving too much away is that there are 7 movies that we're presenting as scenes in the haunted house. So we are going to go through 7 different scenes, 7 movies that are part of the marathon. Some of those movies are callbacks to HHN's past. You're going to get to see him in video format in between each of these movies. He's going to be ushering us from movie to movie and the host of the event. He'll also introduce the house itself and its backstory in Q-Line videos. Love to see the return of Q-Line videos. We love those where, I don't know if some of you remember or have been there years, where there's a movie being projected on like a wall or a projector somewhere while you are waiting in the queue, in the line for the house, and it's telling the story of the house, right? This is something very common to the event, and it says we're going to get one. It sounds like we're going to get like an old school style Q video. And more about the Q-Line video, it says we're going to get to see HR Bloodengutz in his new role, telling this new story and preparing us for the Halloween Fright-Tacular. So we have one tease here. One of those movies he's presenting is a black and white zombie film in an old graveyard. Ooh! There's going to be a Halloween party taking place inside a tiki bar, overtaken by monsters of the night. We love tiki monsters. Each scene is going to feel very unique, but all based in the world of Halloween. I think I've told you guys before that my favorite type of Halloween and spooky stuff is classic Halloween, and that's what it sounds like we're getting here, and I just love that. We call these houses Halloween comfort food. Oh, I love that. Y'all know me too well. Halloween comfort food. And we've done them throughout the course of our history, and this house checks off that vibe. Okay, cool. So now we know about the first 2. Let's get into the next 3. Original house number 3 for 2026 is Madlands Caged Cannibals. The description reads, in this haunted house, a defunct zoo is now the deadly domain of warring cannibal factions that have taken their criminal instincts to extremes. They're territorial. They're hungry. And your lunch. And like I said in my reel, at least serve me with a pickle. I found this article from Cinema Blend about Madlands. So it's so cool that all these different outlets have like interviews and articles and behind the scenes about the original houses as they're being announced. And that we have this to like do our Halloween Horror Nights homework, because I call it Halloween Horror Nights homework because it is watching the movies, the shows, or re-watching, because most of us have seen most of these things, the shows and the movies and the games and whatever that are announced for each year. But the homework for original houses is a little bit harder because they are original, unless they have backstory, lore, or like this, they're feeding us some lovely interviews. So we have in this Cinema Blend interview with our queen, Laura Sauls, who is wonderful, one of the creative minds that works on Halloween Horror Nights. I've met her many times. Very cool lady, very passionate about the event. She said This idea came out of a brainstorm week we do every year, where we have scenic designers, character designers, and show directors who all come to the table with every idea they can think of. No idea is a bad idea. Last April, we had that meeting, and one of our newer scenic designers had the idea for this post-apocalyptic zoo that's infested by this tribe of cannibals in a world where animals are extinct. So there's going to be no animals in this zoo. Humans are cannibals, and they take on the traits of the animals that once lived in this post-apocalyptic zoo. And we just said this is a home run. Now, some people mentioned that Not Scary Farm did a house similar to this, but from what I gather, this is a different story than that. Now, I've been to Knott's and I love Knott's, but I've never been to Not Scary Farm. And I know you're thinking, Jackie, you will love it. I know I will. I know I will. And one day we will get there for Not Scary Farm. But as of now, I haven't been. So I had to just kind of like look at videos and articles and stuff about that house. It seems like this is a different story, but a different take. But we do see with a lot of these big theme park haunts, similar ideas used across the different haunts. It's not a first time we've seen that. Okay, so here's a big quote that Laura Sauls is giving us about this house, and something that all of this that I'm telling you from these articles, you won't see in the announcements. You got to do the research to find these, and I'm sharing it with you. I'm doing it for you. So here's what she says. It's a bloody house. It's one of our bloodiest this year. The cannibals are coming at guests strongly. They're killing machines, and every person that goes into this house is their prey. So it sounds very aggressive. When guests enter Madlands, they'll be transported to a fictional dystopian world. I love a good dystopian future world. Not for real, obviously, just for pretend. Nobody wants a dystopian future here. And let's all work to try to make that not happen. But this is just for pretend. I feel like we're getting a lot of sci-fi themes this year. And this kind of, the dystopian future part is there, that piece is there. Anyway, a fictional dystopian world where a tribe of cannibals take on the traits of zoo animals when hunting their prey. The tribe of cannibals we'll meet in Madlands have been inspired by what they imagine zoo animals to be like. But since animals have gone extinct, they're only operating on an idea, like what they think the animals would be like. I think that's such a creative twist on this theme. It's also going to be apparently one of the more hardcore houses of this year. She says, we think this house is going to be one of the most aggressive in the event. I think this one's going to be very intense, very bloody, very in your face. She also said they're very proud of this house from a production point of view. She said the scenic aesthetic of it is going to be top tier. So it also doesn't sound like that when at first glance, right? But we love a good scenic. We love a good built environment that we, the guests, can walk through and be part of the story. This is very exciting. I'm much more excited about this. And I'm reading this article right now with you. Some of these I read beforehand, but this one I had queued up, but like I wanted to kind of react to it in real time. Never really done that. So anyway, I'm reading this along with you. She encourages fans to go at a slow but steady pace through it. And yes, some of you commented that you think that this will be the smelly house of the year, and it is pretty much confirmed in this article. There are going to be some interesting smells in this house. So I think this will be a smelly, stinky, bloody, in-your-face, aggressive house. And I'm very excited to see how the cannibals interpret what they think animals are like in a world where animals have gone extinct. So our next announcement is Cybergoria. Awaken thousands of years in the future in this haunted house. So we have another dystopian future house, another sci-fi. And brave a cold world driven by machines with a singular goal to make you live forever, even if it kills you. The irony. We've got the machines. Now let's see. I found an article here from Wesh News. Does it say anything that is different than what we know? No. Next, Fox 35 Orlando. What do you have for us? No. They have something about alien abduction, so I'll talk about that next. I'm not seeing a lot of articles about Cybergoria. Now, I know probably like a lot of you, my first thought was like cyborgs and seek and destroy. This is not that, apparently. It doesn't seem like it's connected to that. This is something different. Also, maybe thinking like Terminator type of a thing. It has that feel. It has that sci-fi, dystopian, robots, future feel. We can all kind of like imagine what that vibe will be. Found it. Okay, so we're on Game Rant now. So we have this interview with Matthew Flood. He is the creator of the Cybergoria house. We've got some teases and information here. I'm loving these interviews. Every year I get excited, whether they do like a podcast series or these kinds of interviews with the press or whatever way they disseminate like Easter eggs and hidden details and lore and backstory about the houses and scare zones. I think it's such a great thing for us super fans. And even if you're not an HHN super fan, I hope that you enjoy the level of detail they put into this, right? And I hope it helps you to enjoy the event more this year, whether you're planning to attend in person or through the videos I'm gonna bring you. You'll kind of know, you'll be like, no, I know, I got this. Cybergoria centers on a corporation called the Bio-Immortal Bionic Intelligent Systems, which offers customers immortality on the condition that they be cryo-frozen until the technology to deliver eternal life can be caught up. Ooh, always a big gamble. Would you do that if a corporation was like, we can freeze you and we'll wake you up and we can make you immortal? Like, do you trust them? Is it gonna happen? Is it gonna be a Fallout type of situation? Of course. The company never delivered. Its intelligent facility, left to make do with its resources, began fusing human and robot parts to keep living tissue alive. Yuck. So the walkthrough of the haunted house is we're going to go through the freezing process into a future where man and machine have melded, and then outside the facility to see what's become of the world. So this says Cybergoria represents something a little different for Halloween Horror Nights, a futuristic sci-fi take on a horror concept. They asked Flood in the interview what this particular house offers the team that they haven't done before. Here is what we have. Flood says, this one is so exciting for a couple of reasons. I talked about the facility being really fully integrated and kind of alive. Our team is getting better and better. Agree. The amount of integration of audio, lights, and how these characters are being presented is to next level. Ooh, I love that. So he talks about how they can bring an entire room to life. Everything is structured in a way that heightens the scares exponentially. He says, I'm speaking in general, but if you walk through our Insidious house a couple years back, it was received as a very scary house. We're applying the same kind of thinking to this one. Ooh, interesting. It becomes both a very unsettling house from a subject matter, but also really aggressive and highly integrated. So we have another aggressive house, but we have a spooky, scary sounding house. Did you all do Insidious? I know I did many, many times. I thought it was great. I thought it was really well done, very scary. He talks about a secret to the trade being the sound bites and the audio design, which is something I have talked about a lot in haunted houses, but also like walkthrough, story-driven, immersive environments and tribute stores. I've talked a lot about the sound design in those too. Even just very simple details, that sound, that audio can make a really big difference on your psyche. But he talks about using the sound to sort of tease what's coming next. Like you start to hear it before you go into that area, which is a great storytelling way to use sound. I love details like this when they talk about the design of the houses to this level, not just like promoting the house and promo stuff, but actually giving us details like this. I really appreciate that. So he says that teaser of that sound is intimidating to the average guest. But he also talked about how they want you to be scared and they want you to like, yeah, scream and be scared and whatever, but they want you to come out like high-fiving and having fun and not being like disturbed and upset. I think that is a very interesting line to walk because there are people who come to this event who want horror. They want it to be upsetting because they're not upset by it because everybody's threshold for what scares you and what upsets you is different. I've been going to this event for so long and I've been to so many haunted events. There has been some upsetting stuff I've seen or some stuff that like I don't want to do again because it does scare me. But I think it's kind of rare and it just depends for everyone. It's different. There are some topics I like more than others and some topics I don't like that much. Some topics I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to see that particular topic. None of these hit that this year for me, thankfully. But I appreciate them considering that because it's a very fine line to walk and it's so subjective and so different for everyone. So that's from Matthew Flood here, and I think that's really interesting. And he says here, the team just wants to make the coolest event ever. We do it every year with a strong desire to see how we can make the coolest thing. And I love that. Great job. All right, let's move on to the final of the 5 original houses for Halloween Horror Nights 2026 is Invasion Alien Abduction. Make contact with horrors from worlds unknown in this haunted house where a ship full of greys has torn apart a remote homestead in search of fresh test subjects. This sounds like a very classic alien abduction type of a story, but we do have an article. This one is from Nerdist, where they speak to Charles Gray, one of the show directors and creators. So we have the description, but as they talk to Gray, we learn just how foundational, scary, unexpected, and novel this house will be. This says these aren't your campy comedy aliens. And that was my first thought. I did think of campy comedy aliens, and I like that, so I would have been fine with that, but this sounds like that is not the case. It says true horror is coming in this house. Tentacles, claws, home invasion, claustrophobia, a vibrating floor, an incredible amount of delicious chaos, in his words. Charles Gray says that they've been talking about this idea for the last 5 years, and he talks about how they were talking about like the little gray men and aliens, and how the idea can get into like comedy and campy, which I would not have had a problem with. I like that there are sometimes comedy horror houses, hence like the Killer Clowns from Outer Space, things like that. I like when there's one like funny house every year, but it's still scary and it's still quality and good. But he says that is not the goal here. They don't want it to be kitschy or cheesy. I like kitschy and cheesy, but I also like what they're going for here. He says that we've done that type of house or scare zone before too, so I'm glad he acknowledged that, because they have. But in Invasion Alien Abduction, we really want to tell a story of the horrific moment at night when they're coming to take you. Ooh, that does sound scary. And that's frightening. We talked about it, and finally I think we came up with a story that really encapsulates that almost home invasion type of horror and fear. And there's a lot of people out there who say, like, let the aliens come take them away. But in actuality, I don't think you really want that. I don't think you do. Says that there's gonna be different types of little gray men, so gray aliens. If you've seen anything about alien lore, like UFO, I talked in my reel about how Sam and I actually visited the town of Roswell, New Mexico, which is near Area 51, and the town is steeped in very kitschy, well, there's actually both. There's the history side, and then there's like the kitschy tourist attraction side, both of which we like and appreciate. It's very Americana, it's very weird and interesting. It's one of those places I had always wanted to see in person. I don't think it's for everyone. And there's obviously more to Roswell than just this. But we went to see like the alien and tourist sites. We went to the museums and the tourist attractions and all of that stuff. And personally, I love that vlog. It's part of our cross-country USA road trip. If you haven't seen it, you should. We drove all the way across the USA and we saw a bunch of things like that. But anyway, we went to Roswell. So I very much do like things like that. And I like watching those shows about aliens and stuff like that. And I love movies about like UFOs and abductions and stuff like that. So I find this very interesting. So he says there's a lot of different types, and he says you won't see the same character over and over again. We have a diverse group of aliens coming at you. I like that they said that, because we have seen at other haunted events, alien type of houses where you just see that same alien with the black eyes and the same skeleton almost looking face and the skinny arms over and over again. So he says we're going to see different types. I think so we're going to see the lights of the ship, and that's a big part of UFO lore, right? The beam, the tractor beam, the lights that come down from the ship, and the lights that beam you up into the ship. It's funny because we just did level 99 yesterday at Disney Springs, and there was a house we did that was like a corn maze, and obviously it was alien abduction themed. And I think we knew but didn't put it all together till after when I was editing. I was like, oh duh, you're supposed to stay out of the beam because it's the aliens trying to suck you up into the ship. Anyway, watch that vlog if you want, because that's a whole other thing. But it did make me think of this. So he also says they have big giant tentacles. Big giant tentacles, and then out of these big giant tentacles come these little organic claws that can puncture you. Ew. And it really changed our story, and we got very excited about it. So we've got tentacles, we've got claws, we've got appendages coming at you. So this is not a Cary, Ohio situation, although it could be. This could very, very easily fit in there. And this is not a sequel to any other house or story. This is its own thing, and it's going to take place in the Southwest. So it's got turquoise and cactusy flavor to it, which I love the Southwest. All right, that's really cool. So New Mexico, maybe something like that. I love out west. It's a completely different thing. I love the desert and the cacti and the heat. So I know a lot of people are saying we want more for the anniversary year that's tied in, and they do ask him about that in this interview. And he says, it is an anniversary year for us, and we'll always incorporate a lot of stories into the past. But if you'll notice in our history, there's usually one or two foundational news stories we're telling during an anniversary year. And Invasion Alien Abduction is one of those foundational stories. So you'll see newspaper clippings and pieces of that story woven throughout the event, sometimes tied into the tribute store or something like that. We didn't want to tie it to anything because most of this event is tied to a something or another tale or prequel or things like that. Fair enough. So we really wanted this to be a first chapter. And we're really excited about that. Okay, so that's interesting. This isn't tied to anything from the past. This is a fresh, new story and new take on the alien abduction story. Maybe we'll see sequels to it in the future. You see, this is how the sequels start, with an original story. And then if it does well and the creators like it and everybody likes it and there's more story to tell there, we'll see it again and again. So this also does tie into Jack and Oddfellow. This is great. He says the two iconic aggressors, the two main characters of the event are Jack and Oddfellow, right? He says they represent chaos and control. There are two sides of the same coin. We've heard that again and again. And he says this house definitely leans more into the chaos. So I feel like we're going to see chaos and control as themes throughout every house, right? So Cybergoria is control, obviously. Ooh, I like it. I like it. He says this house is going to be super chaotic. They did an audio walkthrough last week. Oh, I'd love to do that. Can I do one? Can I do one? So the audio is meant to draw your attention over here, and then something chaotic is happening over here. He says you get ping-ponged through the experience and people are getting pulled up into the spaceship left and right. Sounds fun. He also talks about how people expect something very specific when they think of aliens and little gray men, and there's like a specific outline that you see, and they wanted to add more texture to that outline. They wanted to add claws and features and things that you don't expect. So they want to give you what you do expect and then more, deliver on that and give you what you don't expect. So love that. He says we're going to see them grabbing people, animals. They do not care. They're not even like good or bad. Obviously they're bad, but like they just don't care. They're there to take, to experiment. They do not care what they do or who they take or what happens along the way. They just want to do their experiments, but in a very violent way because the tentacles are breaking through and they're pulling you and they're clipping you and they're clawing you and they do not care. They're just grabbing. They're using a heat-seeking device to grab. He says there's two new things that he cannot talk about because he can't give away the scare. So there's surprises. I'm sure there's a lot more surprises, obviously. But he says one thing he can share is that they found a way to use vibration and floor. So we're trying to work with what you're feeling below you. Also maybe like just that the tentacles are like breaking walls and stuff and like the floor is shaking. Ooh. So trying to incorporate it into the floor itself so you feel the ship and the power of the scanning lights really shaking the house apart. So we talked earlier about another house being the scariest of the event, and Charles Gray is saying this is an unexpected amount of gore and violence and tightness and levels of attack. He says he thinks it might be one of the scarier houses of the year too here, I think, right? Yeah, he says he thinks it's going to be one of the scarier houses of this year. Ooh, fascinating. Ooh, he talks about how the aliens are shuffling. They're shuffling and they're moving in a really scary way. Ooh, that gives me the chills just thinking about. He says it's going to be real creepy. And then we've got the little hidden Easter egg. So they asked him, what should we be looking out for in this house? Because there's always Easter eggs and hidden things. He says, look at the family photos because we're going through this abandoned homestead, right? So we're going to be in the house in the homestead while it's being torn apart and shaken apart with aliens. Look at the family photos. Pro tip for you. So all of these articles are giving us kind of like what to look out for and think about in terms of the design and storytelling. Love it. And then one more thing, Charles Gray says that this house will have the flavor of old school HHN. So, all right, that's something. He says this house is a love letter for those who have been here coming back for a long time. And also the guy or the lady who's coming in and bringing their kid for the first time. And they've been going for a long time. He says it's for the fan to be like, hey, this reminds me of when I first came to the park and let me share this experience with you. Oh, that's cool. Oh, one more thing. He says you'll be able to feel and hear the story before you get into the house, and that new fans as well should find this very fun and exciting. So, woo! That's a lot. That's a lot of information. I hope you were able to absorb it all. I know I was. I've got it all locked away up here, but I've got all those links saved so that I can reread those articles before opening night and be more prepared. We now have the 5 original Halloween Horror Nights houses for HHN 35 in Orlando. We only have 2 of the IP houses. We have Sinners and Stranger Things. So we can expect, with the next batch of announcements, 3 more IP houses. We can expect however many scare zones are going to be. We're looking forward to them announcing about the food because I feel like they do keep getting more and more creative with the themed food offerings every year. They'll do like these food booths that are themed to the different stories at the event, and we all love that. And then just any other extra little details that, just little points to clarify about things. We know we have not yet gotten frequent fear tickets on sale yet. There are tickets on sale to the event, and there are express tickets on sale to the event, and there are tours and things like that you can already purchase. But For those of us who go a lot, like if you come on a trip and you know you're going to be here over a certain amount of time, you'll have to do that math yourself. It may make sense to buy like a rush of fear or a frequent fear of some level. We always buy a frequent fear plus so that we can attend the event as much as possible because we live here in Orlando. We're mega fans of the event and we like to go a bunch. We go like a bunch, but we don't have those tickets on sale yet. So as soon as we have scare zones, food, frequent fear tickets, more details about Stay and Scream and all of that, I will let you know. I will post about it here. I will post about it there. I will post about it everywhere. This is Super Enthused Jackie reporting to you from the Mystic Isle headquarters. You see my pumpkin back here. I think I've been blocking him with my chair the whole time. Darn, there's a pumpkin back there. Let me put him up here with me. Oh, you still can't see him. Here? There he is. He should have been there the whole time. Darn. I'm not used to doing videos from my office, as you can tell. I'm used to doing them out on the street, on the beat. I'm an out in the street type of, not the street, on the theme parks. Let me wrap this up by giving you my ranking of which I'm most excited for. Jack and Oddfellow, number 1. HR Bloodengutz, number 2. I think I have changed this in Invasion, Cybergoria, and Madlands. Now, those rankings of what you're most excited for or what you're most hyped for change. They change every year. Once you're actually in the event, you're like, oh, that one that was a 5 is my 1. That one that was a 1 is my 3. Like, it could change. But right now, just in the descriptions and what we know, that is my order of hypeness. Let me know your order of hype, which we're most excited for to least. It doesn't mean that the least I'm not excited for. It's just like, you got to rank. A ranking's got to have a ranking. Let me know which you are most excited for. Give me your top 5. Let me know if you have any stories or anything to add to this, to any of the lore. There's so much history in these 35 years of Halloween Horror Nights just in Orlando. I really just focus on Orlando. They also have the event in Hollywood and overseas. So this is a worldwide thing, but I just focus on the Orlando event mostly. But there's a lot of tie-ins. Sometimes I forget something or overlook something. So if I did, feel free to add it in. And then let me know what you thought of all the articles we read, the insider information, which you're most excited for. Give me your top 5 ranking. And let's continue with the HHN 35 coverage from right here in Mystic Isle and from out in them theme park streets. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me in Mystic Isle in my office today to nerd out about HHN and the original story houses for this year, the anniversary year. I'm sending you a ton of love. I'll see you for the next video. And until then, as always, stay enthused. Bye.